First, a warning. I'm going to tell you some things, show you some things that could shock you. Show you video, for instance, hinting of truly horrible war crimes. And I hope you're still going to keep watching because you need to know this. The world needs to know and to react. These are absolutely horrific war crimes by Russian troops in Ukraine that we're now seeing with our own eyes. And it changes everything. That's because these crimes expose the weakness of US President Joe Biden. They expose the weakness and the greed of European leaders. And they expose everyone who said right up to last week, no, we can't do too much to help Ukraine beat Russia. These are the people who said, for instance, no, we can't send troops to help Ukraine. We can't send Ukraine our spare jets. We certainly can't leave open the use of our nuclear weapons.
Mr. President, should Americans be worried about nuclear war?
No. No, they said we can't do anything that could provoke the Russian president, Vladimir Putin, provoke him too much. We can't even call Putin exactly what he is, a butcher. France's idiotic president last week said that would just escalate things. No, we can't do anything that would upset Putin too much and make this war worse. But wait, make this worse? This is worse. Worse is exactly what we're now staring at. Well, actually, there are times when the media lies to you. We lie by omission. We don't want to, but there are rules, so we can't actually show you exactly what Russian soldiers have been doing in Ukraine to civilians, to women, even to children. I'll show you some of it, as much as I dare, and I've seen more than I do dare put to air. But we have broadcasting rules, we have rules of taste. We can't upset you too much. Sure, we can show you lots of pictures of missiles hitting buildings, for instance, lots of dust, but no blood. We can't show you what those missiles actually do to the humans inside. That would just be bad taste. Put you off your dinner. So I can't show you now exactly the horrors that you can see on social media if you search hard enough. The horrors that are being discovered by Ukrainian troops and by journalists, including journalists from the West, AFP and others, New York Times, all sorts of journalists, and they're putting it on the web. The horrors they're discovering in towns and suburbs in Ukraine, like Bucha and Irpin, the Ukrainian troops are now liberating as they turn this war around and chase the Russian army out of northern Ukraine. These are the photographs and videos of the bodies the Russians have left behind of Ukrainian civilians that they've raped or shot, tortured, mutilated, cut the ears off, run over with tanks, or burned or buried, or just left lying outside their homes as a warning to others. We can't show you all that, which means we can't show you the full truth of the Russian barbarity in Ukraine. Let me at least do the most that I dare. Here, for instance, is what Ukrainian troops and journalists found when they drove back into Bucha. I've blurred out the bodies. Civilians just left lying outside their homes or in the street, most shot dead, some with their hands tied behind their backs. I can't show you the body of the girl the Russians shot dead outside her home. I can't show you the bodies of the naked women under that covering, bodies that the Russians tried to burn, or of the women in Mariupol that the mayor there said the Russians had killed and then crushed with a tank. I can perhaps show you at least one of the mass graves, because these bodies at least are in bags and in the distance. But I can't show you the civilians shot in their cars trying to flee. I can't show you the man that the Russians killed as he just carried his potatoes, or the woman they killed with the car keys still in her hand. And look at the key ring. You can just see that star emblem of the European Union that even now refuses to do what it must to end this war. The only way it can now be ended. So much faith in Europe that woman had, and this is how it's rewarded with a bullet, a Russian bullet. So there's so much I can't show you, like the bodies of the civilians who Russian commanders in a duchy in Bulka shot and left in a pile in the basement. I saw it, I swear they exist, but I can't show you. But that detail, the bodies in the command post, the bodies also left outside so many homes, the sheer scale of the killing, tells us these were not just the crimes of some rogue Russian soldiers. I'm afraid that this is in fact how the Russian army does war. We've seen it for a long time. We saw it in World War II. We saw it in Chechnya. We saw it in Afghanistan and in Syria. And now we see it in Ukraine, in Europe. And we've also heard intercepted calls from Russian soldiers telling relatives back home, oh, 2 of us raped Ukrainian women. We shot civilians. We stole their stuff. And back home, Russian journalists interview people in the street who seem equally pitiless.
Как вы думаете, чем все закончится?
Надо ее снести со земли и все.
Украину?
Да.
Зачем?
А зачем она нужна?
А потом кого сносить еще?
Польшу. Просто до кучи.
И вот эта падаль нацистская, вы теперь спрашиваете, что мы с ним будем делать? Вольнем.
Украина станет вторичным государством, которое не будет принимать ни в чем участие. А мы будем забирать эту землю себе.
Now, I know many Russians are not like that. We can't generalize. But we can't also hide the fact that this war is incredibly popular with many Russians in Russia. Even though they've got an excuse, I guess, they get an incredible diet of propaganda from Vladimir Putin. Media is strictly controlled. But I then have to ask, what is the excuse for some Russians who live in Germany? And last weekend had a big street parade in Berlin in support of what Russia was doing in Ukraine. So as I say, these war crimes actually change everything, or they should. The idea that the world can go back one day when peace is made between Ukraine and Russia, we can all go back to business as usual. We can go back to making deals with President Putin, who unleashed this terror. That idea, business as usual, seems insane. Putin is finished in the West. Everything has changed. The idea, often floated by Western leaders and advisors and commentators, the Ukrainian president, Vladimir Zelensky, he should have bailed out, maybe accepted an American lift out of his capital city, flee. Or maybe he should make compromises with Russia for peace. And let Russia keep some of the territory it's captured. That phrase we keep using, build Putin a golden bridge, the art of war, Sun Tzu. Let's give him a golden bridge, a deal. That's over too. That is over. Which Ukrainian today will think, seeing those bodies, seeing those crimes, maybe it was their neighbour, maybe it was a relative, will think, seeing all this horror that we're now seeing. And remember, we're only seeing scenes from a few liberated suburbs and towns the Ukrainian army has liberated. We haven't yet seen some of the biggest cities, what the Russians have been doing there. But what are Ukrainians going to think? Seeing all that, yeah, all right, let's make a compromise now with Putin. Let's give him some of these face-saving concessions, this golden bridge. Let's hand over some of our land and some of our people into his tender mercy in exchange for peace. I tell you, that wasn't going to happen. Now, never going to happen. It is immoral for the West to insist Ukraine do such a thing. You may as well have asked the Jews to cut a deal with Hitler after the Holocaust. And don't forget, to repeat, these horrors are from just some towns the Ukrainian army has liberated. God knows what they'll find when they liberate, say, Mariupol, which the Russians have turned to ruins, a city of 500,000 people. Everything has changed. I repeat, everything has changed when we see these scenes. That's why we cannot look away or pretend they're faked. The Russians say, oh, no, that wasn't us. They'll come up with excuses. Oh, it's the Ukrainians, they did it themselves. Or God knows, they'll figure out something. But no, you must look, you must know, everything has changed. It's now clearer than ever, I hope, that Vladimir Putin cannot now be given a deal. He must be defeated. If he gains anything out of this war that he can dress up as a victory, he will one day do it again. He will go to war again, whether in Ukraine to get the bits that he couldn't get this time once he's repaired his army that the Ukrainians are torn to bits, maybe Poland or Moldavia, Kazakhstan, who knows? And if China, by the way, Russia's big ally in this, they're supporting Russia, have you noticed? If they see Russia get away with even these crimes, won't China then conclude, well, invading Taiwan, that's worth the pain. We can do that. Because if the West will make a deal with even Vladimir Putin after this, they'll make a deal with us, won't they? No matter what China does. So no, now it is clear. Vladimir Putin must lose this war if we want to stop more of them. Ukraine must now be given everything it needs to win. The sort of stuff it's been begging for. The sort of stuff that NATO and the US think, no, that's too provocative. Jets, tanks, maybe even foreign troops. Because what is the worse than this that we want to avoid? And Europe, those greedy European leaders who funded Putin's war machine by buying so much of his gas and its oil. Europe, 40% gas supplies from Russia, $1 billion a day to Russia to pay for all this. Every time someone in Germany switched the heating onto their home, bullets for Russia, a bomb on Ukraine. That's got to end. And not just, in a couple of years, like the Germans are saying, give us time, it's too much of a wrench, give us time. But in months, weeks, because every day that Europe sends this money to Russia is another day of cash for Putin's genocidal army. Germany and Italy and Belgium and all those countries in Europe who rely on Russian gas, they are funding the torturers of Putin's army. They are funding genocide. Everything must change after these war crimes. And it's good. The Germany's defense minister, at least the defense minister, is finally shocked enough to agree that yes, Europe must now discuss banning Russian gas. These crimes cannot stand. They can't stand because this is World War III that we're looking at, with the start of another Holocaust. Never again, we said, remember that? So this now, you've seen the pictures, or you can see the pictures. This is a war that must now end with Vladimir Putin's defeat. Not a peace deal, a defeat. And that is up to us.